Indiana University East School of Natural Sciences and Mathematics, density. Density is essentially a measure of the amount of substance mass per unit volume. As you may know, the mass of an object actually depends on its volume. But we also know that some things are less dense than others. So the volume doesn't actually depend on mass completely. For example, a bucket of styrofoam would have a mass much smaller than that of a bucket of water with the same sized bucket. So density is the mass per unit volume of an object. Okay, and typically we have various different units for this. So I use grams for the mass almost always, and I can use milliliters for the volume, and then that would be grams per milliliter. Equivalently, it turns out that 1 cubic centimeter is equal to 1 milliliter, and so grams per cubic centimeter would also be the same unit as grams per milliliter. Okay, this works well for liquids and solids. For gases, again we use grams, but because gases are much less dense, we tend to use liters for the volume, so it's grams per liter. You should be aware that for density, if you have a liquid, then denser things than the liquid in question would sink, while less if an object is less dense than the object, then it will float. For example, oil is less dense than water, so oil floats on water. But a brick would sink in water. So let's take a couple of examples in terms of using the equation density equals to mass over volume. Okay, so let's look at this. So the density is mass divided by volume, and that would be as follows. So mass is 305 grams, and the volume of this a cube would be length cubed. So therefore this is 3.00 centimeters or cubed, and as a result it is 11.3 grams per cubic centimeter. You need to also be able to do calculations using involving density, but not solving for density. And this can be done in a couple of ways. We'll talk about another way a bit later. Now we will talk about rearranging the density equals to mass over volume equation. Here I'm solving for mass given the density and volume. So what I want to do is to make mass the subject of the equation. So I multiply both sides by the volume. And I'm going to move mass over here. So I end up with density times volume. The density is 0.60 grams per mil, and my volume is 30.0 milliliters. Note that when you do this, you need to make sure that the volume in the density unit and the volume unit itself have the same units, and that would be 18 grams in this case.